Welcome to First Church and the opening celebration of our 350th anniversary. First Church was a church 111 years before the United States was a country. First Church, as many of you know, was also the founding church of Greenwich.
Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to the First Congregational Church of Greenwich in recognition of the 350th anniversary of the founding of the First Congregational Church of Greenwich on May 11th, 1665.
For 350 years, in 4 different locations, this church has been a beacon of peace and justice throughout Lower Fairfield County.
In 1665, the First Church of Christ in Greenwich was incorporated by the General Court of the Colony of Connecticut.
By 1667, the first meeting house was built somewhere in Old Greenwich, calling of the first settled minister, a man named the Reverend Jeremiah Peck. 1735, a 2-story meeting house now has been achieved, so again, more prosperity is in the neighborhood. Women and slaves would be up in the upper balcony at that time, men allowed downstairs.
As God's people, this congregation has seen lives touched through baptism, confirmation, marriage, and death.
As God's people, we have been faithful to the gospel of Christ, teaching all ages about the love of God, proclaiming justice as an open and affirming congregation.
The First Congregational Church of Greenwich, over 350 years, has managed to preserve all that is good about our history, its tradition, its heritage, its values, while changing with the times. Your values of openness, generosity, and faith extend from the church's founding to the present day and stand as a testament to the enduring commitment of this congregation to promoting freedom and tolerance.
Dr. Lorimer delivered an impassioned sermon against the radical and intolerant views of the Ku Klux Klan and the American Legion. This sermon was subsequently published in the newspaper, and thereafter a cross was burned on the front lawn of our church.
I think that the whole time that I was there in the 80s, that it was a consciousness-raising time, because we went through all kinds of the social issues that are still prominent today. But we had women's liberation, and we had a new women minister.
Today we gather, as we have on countless Sundays over the past 350 years, to worship God, who has given us blessings beyond what we thought we deserved.
I felt like we needed a church home, and so having grown up in the Catholic Church, I just felt like this, when I came here for a worship service, that this would be the place.
My parents actually found out about the church through a wedding and learned about the preschool program, and they sort of fell in love with the church at that point.
Really, part of the philosophy of our church school was that we not only taught our children, but in their conversations with us, they taught us. Sharing our faith is something we do. We don't just impose it upon someone, and as we share what we believe, our faith becomes deepened.
At the height of the youth program, we had about 70 teenagers, because we had not only the Senior Pilgrim Fellowship, we had a Junior Pilgrim Fellowship, and we had the College Pilgrim Fellowship.
I have some great memories of working with the high school youth group for 12 years, and several of those memories include traveling with Sally internationally.
first mission trip that I took with the kids was in 1980, and it was to West Virginia, to the Appalachian South Folk Life Center. Our kids grow up in a place of such privilege and surrounded by such wealth that I felt that they needed to be sensitized to what the rest of the world really was like.
A church is known by its care and compassion for its members, as well as its mission and outreach to others.
As God's people, we have shown mercy in our community by providing food for those in need, financial support through the efforts of the Rummage Room, and thousands of other ways in the activities of our daily lives.
And we will be receiving 500 Christmas trees from New Hampshire, and all proceeds will go to charitable organizations. These include Shelter for the Homeless, Inspirica, Den for Grieving Kids, the Sexual Assault Crisis Center, Young Mariners Foundation, and Meals on Wheels. This has been our mission and our tradition for over 40 years.
I'd just like to say how proud I am and how grateful Neighbor to Neighbor is for the support this congregation gives every week when that barrel is filled.
We are cooking chili for the area soup kitchen.
Covenant to Care for Children, which supports children in crisis who've been removed from their homes or being placed in foster homes. The Silver Lake Conference Center in Sharon, Connecticut, which many of you have been to, and your children have attended camp. But they also reach out to children who can't afford to go.
On Harvest Sunday and part of the church service, we will be collecting canned and dry goods during the offering. The folks from Home Co-op from Maine will be in the auditorium selling their crafts and homemade items.
But we do know that we are all God's people, that we are here together in this community.
Today, we gather to praise the name of the Lord, for guiding those who came before us, giving them light and wisdom to build places for worship, for education, for community events, and for a place to give us comfort in our sadness, to give us hope in our uncertainty, and to give us joy in our celebrations.
When I enter the meeting house now, this wonderful sense of peace and relaxation comes over me. It's a physical thing, I feel.
God's touch of hope meets us in unexpected places.
You need time to pause. You need time to reflect.
Are you here because you're a regular church goer every Sunday? Because you're a rock-solid believer?
In this place, God is doing a new thing. Can you perceive it?
I also like how everyone's so warming, you feel very welcome here and that you belong.
People can be open and honest about their own thoughts, but willing to listen to the reasoning and thoughts of others.
There were many of us that had some doubts, like I could go ahead and have these doubts and still be part of the church.
Or perhaps you came because even though you have your doubts about religion, you like the ceremony, the trumpets, and the hymns.
My school's changed, everything's changed, but this place always seems to be the same way.
The church is just such a welcoming place that I really wouldn't want it to change.
Keep it in your mind that you do have a church home, and you always have this one to return to.
I said I would hope that these young people would find this church as much of a home as I have.
That's what we're about here at First Congregational Church. We welcome each other and we challenge each other. In the times where we struggle, we offer support. In the times where we're joyous, we join in joyful celebration.
This church is important to the community as a whole, as a meeting place, as a focal point, and of course as a place of spiritual nourishment. A church that welcomes all and reaches out to our neighbors in need.
It was here that I learned how love works. It was here and through you that I learned how divine love works in everyday life.
Today we gather to lift our voices in song and in prayer with a deep love for our neighbor, with boundless gratitude in our hearts as we honor the past, celebrate the present, lean into the future with God's amazing gift of life for each of us. Let the people say, Amen. Amen. Let us worship God.